Item number 13, Natalie Springer, Local 1 imposition.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight I am presenting the last and best and final offer for Public Employees Union Local 1. This is to impose the last, best, and final offer in Local 1. The city's employment agreement with Local 1 expired June 13th, 2014. We met approximately 21 times and we are unable to reach agreement with Local 1. Impasse was declared September 23rd, 2014. Thereby, we moved into mediation in November of 2014. Afterwards, Local 1 decided to utilize the fact-finding process. Fact-finding occurred actually in February of this year and resulted in a fact-finding report that was made public in March. The terms of the last and best and final offer for Local 1 is as follows. Employees, and I'm referring to classic employees here, pay the entire employee contribution towards CalPERS, which is either the 8% or the 7%, which is dependent on the retirement formula. Elimination of half the furlough. The furlough that we're referring to is what we call the work schedule furlough, which would return employees back to work Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. For City Hall employees, that would be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Cap healthcare at the 2014 dollar contribution, elimination of the Me Too provision, and no layoff protections. At this time, I ask City Council adopt a resolution implementing the city's last, best, and final offer to Local 1, and it would not be effective until June 13th, 2015. So I just want that to be noted. Also adopt a resolution for CalPERS stating the city is no longer paying Local 1's member contribution, and this would be effective as well on June 13th, 2015. That resolution is required by CalPERS. Direct staff to initiate the next round of contract negotiations towards a new MOU with the Local 1.
Any questions of staff? All right, at this point, I'd like to open up the public hearing and invite Gary Stuckey is requested to speak on behalf of Local 1.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you well know, we've been in bargaining, as Ms. Walter has pointed out, since March of last year. I think we've made a good faith effort to try to reach agreement with the city. We have, and I can demonstrate, but don't have the time this evening, that we have moved our position, we have compromised, we have tried various things, and yet the city's first offer on the table is your final offer on the table. That's the offer that you're being asked to impose. Frankly, I think it's flawed. It's flawed in several areas. It's flawed because the actual proposal that we received indicates that employees pay 50% of normal costs. The Pepper Reform Law bars that until 2018 from the standpoint of an imposition. It raises issues. It also raises issues about your objective, stated very clearly numerous times, to end furloughs completely. But yet, the imposition that you're being asked to impose is to continue 5% of that furlough. Additionally, as I understand, the city is supposed to place a cap on the city's contribution. That was not negotiated with any of the groups. It was imposed on fire. But you add the combination of those two things, and in my opinion, it's retaliation. Very definitely, it will spark an unfair. I'm here this evening to get the group together to begin what I consider our public awareness campaign. Because so far we've attempted to deal with the city and the city's representatives to bring closure to this round of contract negotiations. Which I want to point out that during the period from March to September of last year, I settled 3 other contracts in 3 different agencies with very serious financial problems, including the court in Yuba County, which currently operates under an edict from the Office of Administrative Courts that they only get to keep 1% of their operating budget in reserve. It makes it almost impossible to negotiate a multi-year agreement. My point is that this city, as I've demonstrated, and that's why the fact-finding report states that this city has financial resources such that you can stop the furloughs without imposing additional concessions. Your employees have suffered dearly over the last 6 years. They agreed to furloughs for 5. The city imposed the furloughs for this additional year. In my opinion, illegally. That's again, if we don't come to agreement, undoubtedly will spark another unfair. I'm not looking for a battle, neither is Local 1, neither are your employees. All they're asking for is fairness. And, fairness to them is having their 2008 salary back without an additional hit to that spendable income. Think about it. You're asking these employees to revert back to income that they had in 2008 and then reduce that by 7 or 8%, depending upon what formula they're in. That, in our opinion, is not fair, it's not just, and it's not acceptable. So the real issue here, you can direct your team to come back to the table. But unless you as a body understand that negotiations is about give and take, it's not about having objectives, it's not about having a set frame of mind in which you come to the bargaining table and then insist that you have it your way, or it's the highway. So what I'm asking you to do this evening is to do the right thing. If you're going to impose elimination of the furloughs, impose the employee picking up their contribution, but don't increase the pain by not only continuing the furloughs of 5% and imposing 8% or 7% contribution. That's the unjust part. Now, I know there's varying legal opinions out there. You folks have worked with attorneys, so have I. You get 10 in a room, you'll get 5 or 6 different opinions. So the bottom line is, I'll tell you right now, if you impose what I'm suggesting, I'm not going to talk about unfair. I'm not going to go that direction because it's morally the right thing to do. I'd be glad to answer any questions, gentlemen, lady. But I'm asking you to reconsider. I'm asking you to step back away from the cliff and make the right decision, not only for the city, because if you impose what you're about to impose, it will establish very poor public policy. Because to go and ask your employees to help out in the future, I'm telling you, you might as well not go there. But it also communicates out to every other public employee in this community that if your employer asks you to help and you help, watch what happened in Yuba City. I don't think you want to wear that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Stuckey, I have a question for you. Are you offering or putting this offering on the table?
It's not a proposal because, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe in negotiating in public. We're not here to negotiate. We're not here to propose. I don't have the authority from, the membership to make a proposal. I'm willing to support going back to the table and trying to negotiate through our differences. In fact, there's tentative agreements, one of which we spent considerable time on with your public works director trying to work out the issues related to the 12-hour shifts at the plant. We worked through those. It was give and take. We have several other tentative agreements. Those go by the wayside unless we get a contract in place. Right?
Understand. I just wanted to know if that was an offer that was being put on the table. So
not negotiating in public, Mr. Mayor.
Agree. I can appreciate that. We're not going to negotiate in public either. I just wanted to know if that is something that you were willing to move forward with. So,
well, I've made a recommendation to you to do something which I believe is the right thing to do. Because, and I'll make this comment and then I'll end. It's the lower end of the pay scale of the unit that we represent that is going to suffer the greatest from you imposing what you're about to impose. It's not fair to them because we have these bigger issues and differences. And the settlement offer that I made after we came out of fact finding, I thought gave both sides a fair way to try to get this thing resolved. That you opted not to do that because you saw the offset as a salary increase. To me, it's not a salary increase if it doesn't increase the employee's spendable income.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for comments.
I think the one comment I would have is our employees are a great group of individuals that are dedicated to the service to our community. With that said, I also believe that whatever happens here tonight opens the door for immediate and should be considered to come back and negotiate no matter what the result of tonight is. We would open that door to have you come back, and we can move forward rather quickly behind that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, to the mayor. I want to say chair because of previous. I've struggled a lot with this set of negotiations. They're much different than I experienced at the county level, in the way that county was just a little bit more financially able to accommodate compensation for lost benefits or compensation by doing the trading that's being asked here. Financially, a little bit better set. The problem is that I think there was somewhat a rigidity in the negotiations last year, and that's just the way I came to a conclusion, going back and looking at the history of it. So I'm having difficulty with the set of goals that were made and the rigidity that they had trying to achieve those goals, and perhaps not allowing it to slip for a year or two on some of the balanced budget. I didn't even hear any discussion on that. So that is, I have a problem with that. I have difficulty taking away from people that have already received nothing more. But the facts are is there's very little funding really available, except one time. Mr. Stuckey did bring up the fact that there are cases where reserves are highly reduced. Our only difficulty is that CalPERS is an untrustworthy partner to where they can come in and just take away $500,000, $1 million. We're going to redo the formulas, and they've done that now twice while I was at the county and then also here. So that took a lot of the funding that we thought we could have to utilize for employee increases away into retirement to keep that balanced out. So it's not a complete loss, it's keeping your retirement stabilized. I would like us really to get back to the table. I think there are some solutions that can be done. We do need to have, I'm going to call it a reset button action that will actually be a definitive marker, and then from there, in as short a time period as possible, get back and get a resolution to this and as proposed. And if that is a heartfelt thing by the employees to make that change, that we could achieve it in an extremely short period of time to where we can get back to being at least satisfied with the decisions that we've made. This is a real tough one. So,
Any other
Mayor?
comments?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you guys. You guys are valuable employees of the city of Yuba City. When 6 or 7 years ago we came across this issue, and that was the economy tanking, at that point in time, being on the council, none of us knew that this thing was going to drag out as long as it could, this far. All of us thought it was a 2-3 year cycle and things were going to turn around. At that point in time at the council, we made a decision not to make any layoffs at all, but come to you guys to say, hey, we need your guys' help to get through this. And graciously, with all of you guys here and all the other bargaining units, you guys all accepted to take furloughs and keep your pay salaries where you are to keep everything going. I get it. And I can be understanding from your standpoint of view as well, saying, you know what, we haven't gotten a raise. I get that as well. And when you look at the private sector, everybody's lost jobs, nobody's gotten raises. But I can be the first one to sit here and tell you that once we see those numbers improving, sales tax are coming up, you guys will be the first ones coming across the board and saying, you know what, I believe all of our employees across the board deserve a raise. And I can honestly tell you, taking a look at numbers, and when you're trying to balance the budget, it's like your own home checkbook. When you're trying to balance your own checkbook and you're dipping out of your savings account, pretty soon there's nothing out of your savings, there's nothing in your checking to do it. And that's where the dilemma's been here is how long do you keep trying to balance, and how long do you keep trying to kick that can down the curbs without making some hard decisions. And it's very, very hard to keep moving forward trying to balance your budget out of reserves. Pretty soon there is no reserves left to come out, no matter how you look at it. And the numbers are numbers when you look at it. And like I said, I think you guys are the greatest employees of the city, and I thank you guys for everything that you guys have done. And it's no easy decision for us to sit here and impose something where you're looking at it going, what are we doing? But again, I would recommend that you come back tomorrow and saying, if Mr. Stuckey's saying, hey, we can get this thing moving, this thing doesn't go into effect till June 13th, and I don't even think that it affects until June 25th. We've got almost 30 days to come up with a whole new contract. We're open. Let's get this thing moving. We don't want to sit here and not have another year stall out with any kind of negotiations.
I just want to say, as far as the employees, you guys are amazing. The work that I've seen, I go through the offices, and you're just wonderful, wonderful employees, and I can't express that enough. I've been where you are, and I've shared this with each of you before. I've been on the furlough road. I've been on a 15% decrease of salary due to furloughs, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. I've had a really tough, difficult time going through all the paperwork and trying to really pin this down, and it's a tough decision. My recommendation would be, honestly, to come back. Let's do this. Let's keep it moving. Whatever happens tonight, I'd highly recommend that we get together and we continue the process and make this work. You guys deserve it. Don't give up. Come back to the table and let's make this right. Gary made a suggestion, recommendation. I agree. Bring it back. Let's do this. Let's do it tonight. Let's do it tomorrow morning. But I'm behind you, and I support the work that you do. I want you to get this. So do the right thing and bring back to the table quick. Okay?
I'd like to comment also before we entertain a motion on this item, is that we have negotiated now for well over a year. And what Gary brought to us tonight, or suggested tonight, fits within the goals of what we set out with from the very beginning. And had that been brought to the table, I think we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. And so I would encourage you to, if you as a group concur with what he has suggested tonight, that you get together with him and bring that back to the table, and let's get this resolved as quickly as possible. So with that, I will entertain a motion. All right, I'll give you just 2 minutes.
First, just for the record, I think it's important because this is part of the mindset issue. The employees see it as they stepped up to bat to loan you this money, to give you a time period to try to get the house in order, to work through that economic downturn. They see it as the loan is now due. They are due their money back. That is the piece that the council seems to want to say we've got limited resources. And I understand, one-time money is one-time money. And I understand once they're gone, they're gone. But agencies at some point have to get their house in order. And if that means making cuts, so forth, so be it. The employees gave you time to try to figure it out. And that's where they're at. I made my suggestion as an alternative to the imposition that was on the agenda. But in part in that is the issue of the employees' spendable income being reduced. And so that's going to be the difficult rub. The other thing is they've watched as hundreds of thousands of dollars have gotten spent on new vehicles, on pumps that aren't needed, on forklifts that are used twice a year. That's what's irritating, especially since you haven't repaid the loan.
Mr. Buckland.
Through the mayor, I'm going to respond to that. There was no loan made. There was a guarantee given.
Right.
You can laugh all you want. There was a guarantee from this council made that your employment would be held whole, that we would not lay anyone off. We had the option to send people home unemployed. That was the wrong thing for us to do. We did not feel that our employees deserved to be sent home. We felt that we could make and dig into reserves, spend those reserves wisely, and stretch this thing out as long as we could. We see a turn coming. We see a turn at 2018 coming. We hold to that. But we also hold a promise that we're here for our employees. This is a disagreement over dollars. We don't want to take money from you. There were 21 sessions in which we could have come to a resolve that would not have come to this night. Then tonight we hear, well, instead of making this drastic cut, do it this way. That's what I say. Bring it back to us. Bring it back to us.
I would just like to echo that. It was a promise given that we would keep your jobs secure and keep them whole. There's a lot of private businesses that have laid off a lot of people. And those people don't have jobs today. Or they've had to take lesser jobs because they weren't able to keep the jobs that they had. But we gave you our word that we would keep you here if you would help us through this by having the furloughs. It was not a loan, as he mentioned. It was an agreement, a trade-off, so that we could guarantee that you'd be here in this room tonight to have a voice in your future. We're saying to you tonight that if you bring this back to the table, that we will do everything possible to achieve those goals that we set forth from the very beginning. The public session has been closed. All right, I would entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make staff's recommendation to adopt 1, 2, and 3.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gill,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Buckland,
Aye.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No.
Councilmember Didball,
No.
Mayor Dukes.
Aye. Right. Motion passes. Wait for a moment for the room to clear.